when I was like, 10 or whatever, if you told me you're going to be like drowning
too much Star Wars
material,
content.
yeah, like I could have only dreamed. But like now I'm living that reality, and it is like I do love Star Wars. I love all the Star Wars stuff. When it was like movies, and you had a little bit of time between, like, so it's like I saw all the movies, go see Solo and all that stuff, and I enjoyed all of them to some degree, even the ones that I wasn't as big on, I still like. I'm all in, and then they stopped making Star Wars movies again. We're back to like the mid to late 80s now.
A little drought. I'm feeling the drought here, Tom.
But you can. There's a ton. It's migrated to TV, but then the thing is, I'm a film goer. I like to go to the movies. I'm not as big of a fan of like plopping myself in front of the TV and watching it.
Yeah.
Although I do have like the projector at home, so that's fun. I kind of stalled out a little. Mandalorian season 3. Again, the episodes are all good, and I just never found myself making the time. So I kind of stalled out. I didn't make it all the way through that. I'd like to come back to it at some point. And then Andor was like that too. I was enjoying it. I just because I want to give it my full attention. So if I put on a show that I can just kind of like half watch while I'm like working on my comics or something, that's perfect. But if there's a show like a Mandalorian or something where I want to give it my undivided attention, it's really hard for me to like make time for that kind of thing.
Yeah, like I'm more in the right now, like the former vibe. Like you want to throw on like the Fall Guy or something, or WKRP in Cincinnati.
The Obi-Wan Kenobi one, I did watch all the way through because it's just like
that one.
It's like, okay, these are all peripheral characters. Like I like the Mandalorian. Like I'm on board. Like he's a classic now. I like him. A show all about Obi-Wan Kenobi. He's like an act. Like he's a real Star Wars character. Like he's like. George Lucas created Obi-Wan Kenobi. And then, like Darth Vader shows up in it. So, and Darth Vader's like kind of a major part. So I'm like, okay, I'm watching this one all the way through. So I watched that one all the way through. So like, if you want to get my attention, but then Ahsoka, I started watching it, watched the first episode. I was kind of like, whatever. I was kind of lukewarm on it. So then it entered the territory of like, oh, I'll just kind of throw it on while I worked. And so as a result, I was watching it and then kind of like half watching it. But like as I'm going, it's like I was getting more and more into it until it's like, okay, I am a fan of this show.
Me too. Like I was out of the loop to the point where I didn't know if this was a new one or like several years old.
This is the newest one. You're right. It is hard to keep track.
To me, it's cool. Like the characters are so cool. The vibe is cool. Like it's just like kind of like it's a refreshing show.
Well, when I started watching, I think we had like just seen Empire Strikes Back in the theater, and it really was like living up to that thing that we were talking about of like how Empire Strikes Back is like acknowledged as like this is the best one. And then never again did they try to make one like that, And again, the thing they took out was there was no like Han Solo Princess Leia element.
Oh yeah, and like
neutered. Exactly. There's like nobody's in love with anybody in like any of the Star Wars movies after the original trilogy, and the Mandalorian, he's a loner. Like, he doesn't even have any friends. And then this one, the first episode was like that too, because it's like she's just in these like austere like white marble ruins fighting robots and what and it's like there's no humanity to it whatsoever. But then as it goes on, like she expands her cast, you start to meet people, and you get like a nice little team going, like a nice chemistry.
Like I haven't seen the Clone Wars, so I'm not sure if any of these characters are from that.
Because that's the big thing with this, like. And it makes sense because, again, talking about like seeing all the Star Wars movies in the theater, the one that I didn't see was the first animated Clone War, like the Clone Wars animated CGI movie, like that came out, and that was like the first Star Wars movie that wasn't 20th Century Fox.
Oh wow!
I forget who put it, like maybe Warner or somebody. I forget who put that one out.
That's interesting. I didn't realize that.
But for whatever reason, it was like, I just, like, it didn't appeal to me. Like, I really liked the Genndy Tartakovsky 2D animated Clone Wars. The aesthetic of the 3D one just didn't appeal to me. So I skipped that. But yeah, this is all like she's the young, like, alien with the tentacles in the Clone Wars movie and subsequent like series, which went on forever, she's like the all grown up version.
That's so cool. I had a feeling about that, and like
she's like the middle aged version because it's like, I mean that the Clone Wars movies started like 20 years ago or something?
I was gonna say, I feel like people have been telling me to watch the Clone Wars for like 3 decades, and for some reason I just never pulled the trigger.
Yeah, I never did either. I mean, and so like after watching this series, the first thing I did after I finished like the first season was I started watching Clone Wars. And again, I've watched the Genndy Tartakovsky ones a bunch of times, but like this was my first time watching like the animated, the CGI movie. And again, like, and it is good. It's pretty good. There are some things that are off-putting for me. First of all, like that CGI style has not aged well at all. Because they took those like Genndy Tartakovsky designs that are like very severe, very graphic, and then they tried to make like, you know, sculpture so it's like real bizarre looking. Probably after I watch a couple episodes of it, I'll get used to it, and then it'll just be invisible to me. But for now, it's kind of like I'm looking at like the shading on these like cheeks as they go in, you know. And then the other part of it that, again, I'm getting into it, I'm enjoying it, but the thing that was bugging me is that like everybody in the army, everybody in the clone army that like Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker have to deal with, they're all that same guy, you know. And so it's one thing when they're in their stormtrooper, the clone trooper outfits, and they all have that same voice, you know. They're all like, hello there, you know, like they all have like the same accent. And it's like one thing when they're in those clone trooper outfits, because they all, you know, they're all uniform anyway. They all look the same. But then like they have sort of like officers that are kind of like what will eventually become like the officers that are on like the Death Star and stuff.
Yeah.
They have those guys, and they have those uniforms, like they have uniforms similar to those, but it's all that same guy. It's all that actor who played Jango Fett and played Boba Fett.
Oh yeah.
And it drives me nuts. It's like, it bothers me so much. It's like, can we just have like, does it have to be the same guy? Like, it's so stupid to like, it's, again, we've talked about
sick of that actor.
Yeah, exactly. And it's no fault of his. He's a cool guy. And like,
we love you.
Yeah, if he was one of the characters in Star Wars, that would be one thing. But he's every character in Star Wars. It's a bit.
I wonder if he's getting residuals.
I mean, he's got to be the best paid actor in history, because. Not like, and he should get paid for each one of those.
Yeah.
You know, when there's like a room full of him, he should get paid for each of those, as if each one was its own actor.
Because I get sick thinking that like he's inside all these. I just see his face inside my eyelids, and I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, because it's like, again, just because they're clones doesn't mean they all have to be the exact same guy. Like, to me, a clone is like, yeah, you're copying like genetic material or whatever, but you can modify that genetic material. You can make. And again, like we've talked about it before, where it's like you can make like a giant, like sort of Hulk stormtrooper guy. Who you can make ones with wings that can fly, because you're messing around with genes. It's not like, oh, we had one sperm donor and we're just going to make our entire army based on that one guy. Like, how about you get 2 sperm donors for your clone?
They're like, this guy kept coming back and doing all his shit. He's like, he keeps every like day he comes back. Yeah. I don't know. Stop jacking it, Jango.
George Lucas did, like, there's old interviews you can read in like Starlog or whatever, where, you know, somebody's asking, like, you know, when there was maybe like one Star Wars movie or 2 Star Wars movies, and they asked George Lucas, like, oh, you know, what did the stormtroopers look like underneath? And he's like, they all look identical because they're all clones. So like, this was his plan, but it's like the reality of it, when it finally comes down to it, is just so laughable.
It's so ridiculous. And like, with all the liberties the folks can take creatively with this stuff, why do they feel they need to honor George's vision in this department?
Well, I don't know if it's Dave Filoni, who's kind of like the creator of Ahsoka and stuff, but there's somebody, like I've seen in some of these documentaries, there is somebody at Lucasfilm who is like, loves the prequels, like, and worked on all the Clone Wars shows and stuff. And so like, he's like the keeper of the, I'm not sure if it is Dave Filoni or somebody else, but there's somebody there who's like the keeper of the flame, who is like, you know, this guy needs to be transferred to a different department, before you can start maybe, chipping away at some of these, like, George Lucas set in stone kind of
the person there is Blorge Blucas. He's like, there's a mysterious employee that just transferred in. He's like...
Now, this part right here, this challenged me a little bit because it's this mural of their team, and I'm guessing these are all Clone Wars characters, but it's a mural of them rendered in, like, the Clone Wars animated style. Like, that was a little... Again,
You're like, give me a break.
We might be on the wrong side of a generation gap. We might be, because again, like, there are people who, like, this means so much to them, and I can understand why, because like we were saying, I don't know when, like, I think the Clone Wars movies started maybe in, like, what, 2008, 2005 or something?
Feels like that.
So it's been, like, over a decade. And so there are, children who've grown to adulthood where, like, when they were a kid, they're watching a, like a Clone Wars TV show, and it's on every week. And it's like, holy shit, like, if I were, like, 5 and there was a Star Wars TV show on every week, I'd be all about it. And maybe when I got to be a teenager, maybe I'd start to question some of it or whatever, but it's like, you're getting indoctrinated. So imagine that you're watching it, and it's got this, like, young character, and then now you're in, like, your 20s or your 30s or something, and now there's, like, this, where it's paying off on all those seeds from all those hours you put in, this show you've been watching since you were little. And you got Rosario Dawson, who's, like, an amazing actress, and
great cast, Mary Elizabeth Winstead from Death Proof.
Great supporting. Yeah. It's nice to see the Death Proof gang back together.
Oh my god, I didn't put. They better watch out for Stuntman Mike. In space.
Darth Stuntman.
He's like, to get the protection in this TIE fighter, you really have to be sitting where I am. He's like,
he makes her sit in, like, the R2 part of the X-Wing.
He goes under a low bridge and decapitates her.
So like, that would be so satisfying to me if I grew up with this show and then am now watching a show where the characters have kind of aged with me. And
Wait, Stuntman Mike is flying a ship, and his victim, he makes them in the R2.
Where there's no oxygen. For starters.
They're like, are you sure this is safe back here?
The first time I saw her was in, season 2 of The Mandalorian, and was, like, very impressed. Like, okay, this is a cool character. And then it's like, oh yeah, this is a Clone Wars character. But I assumed she was, like, because they had those kind of, like, Bib Fortuna. They had, like, a Bib Fortuna Jedi in, like, one of the prequels. Maybe
like Attack of the Clones.
Attack of the Clones or something. So I thought, I probably saw, like, the action figure or the doll at some point. So I just assumed it was that, but I'm guessing it's not that. This is, like, she's somebody else.
Or remember the Ula from the Jabba's Palace?
Yeah, right. Yeah, Ula. She was a Twi'lek. The continuity is hard to keep straight because it's like, and this takes place, like, what, like, before The Mandalorian or after The Mandalorian? Like did we meet her in real time in these, like, we meet her in The Mandalorian and this is what happens next, or is this what happened to her, like, directly before The Mandalorian?
I'm not sure. I'm out of time. Okay, I'm running out of time on this.
I'm assuming, like, we're, if you start with Mandalorian and then watch this, this is chronological order, and so also Anakin was her mentor, was her she was Anakin's Padawan. So he's part of this. Hayden Christensen's part of this. And he's like a Force ghost that she talks to, and kind of, like, sometimes he sort of mocks her or whatever. Sometimes he, kind of like what was in that, like, early script for the third in the prequel trilogy.
Oh, yeah.
Where it was like the ghost of Luke Skywalker was going to haunt Kylo Ren and kind of like roast him as he's so he, like, Anakin kind of plays that role here.
The stormtrooper surrogate things, like, I love the droids. They're like a perfect balance between the droids from the prequels and the stormtroopers. They're harder to defeat, but they can still be defeated pretty easily. I like those bad guys when they're like little self-destruct things. That's pretty neat.
From what I understand, that's kind of what happened in the Clone Wars series too. Even with the Genndy Tartakovsky Clone Wars thing, it's like they're rehabilitating that sort of prequel world because, and again, like my big problem with the prequels as they were coming out was that like I wouldn't have minded them so much except that this is all the Star Wars we're getting. So it's like all my life I'd heard about the Clone Wars. You know, they would reference it in Star Wars. You'd read about it in Starlog and stuff. And now I'm finally getting it, but all I'm getting is 3 movies because George at that point was stuck in this like trilogy mindset. It has to be 3, so I'm only gonna get 3 movies. And so far, first one's not doing it for me. Second one's not doing it for me. Okay, there's 1 more to go. That one's a little better, and then that's it. Like
that's part of the reason why I didn't watch the Clone Wars because it was too close to the 3rd movie coming out. And I'm just like, I know we tried to work through a therapy session recently, not too long ago. We kind of did.
Yeah. Like, and again, that's part of the process too. We've had years and years to sort of process all this. But yeah, like the Clone Wars kind of like the Genndy Tartakovsky show, it was kind of like, oh, like there's Mace Windu, but he's actually like kicking ass and amazing in this like really cool story. That's awesome. And then it's like, okay, there's there's Hayden Christensen, there's Anakin Skywalker, but he's actually kind of having a pretty cool adventure that I'm totally on board for. Like that's how that cartoon was. And again, from what I understand, the CGI Clone Wars is like that too. Like you're getting to spend you're not just getting 3 movies, you're getting like a short movie every week.
I need to see that.
Yeah. It's just there's so much of it. And again, I put on the first, like it starts with a movie and I put that on after this and I was enjoying it, but again, it got to like a scene where it's like this room full of officers that are all that same guy, and I was just kind of like,
oh my God.
I need to go do something else right now.
I tell you what, yeah, great actor, but his like good. I'm at the end of my fucking rope.
Yeah,
with his picture.
There's such a thing. They talk about it all the time in Hollywood. There's such a thing as overexposure.
Overexposure.
I mean, you're going to be overexposed instantly if there's 10 of you in a movie,
and it's retroactively making me, like I said, sick when I see a stormtrooper. Yeah. I'm like, fucking,
it's that guy
under there. I'm like, I get angry.
Oh, check this scene out. So she's got Ahsoka's got her student. So she's like the Obi-Wan Kenobi for her. And check it out. Instead of doing the little floating ball, there's this like 4-armed, robot.
So cool.
Doing,
and I love that droid.
Mm-hmm. Droids in like all of these Star Wars series, like they do such great stuff. And like he grew on me too.
I like when he was like, stickler for the rules. He wasn't like coming down in the ship and stuff.
Yeah, like the droid roles are like comedic roles. In all of them. Yeah.
This generation of Star Wars, this feels cool.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
well, they got like trendy haircuts and stuff. Yeah. Kind of the same way the original trilogy was. When I think of Star Wars, it's kind of like the first thing I think of is like the haircut. There's like a Star Wars haircut, and so this is like the 2023 version of Star Wars haircut, because those Star Wars haircuts were kind of like everything in Star Wars was sort of timeless and designed to be timeless. The one thing that got through was the hair. That is 70s hair,
When I think of Star Wars hair, I can always picture it like the drop. Yes. It's the Mitch Albom Tuesdays at Maury, like puffs that cover the tops of your ears.
Yeah, there's like a thing that comes over the ears and it goes like this. And Matt, I'm going to tell you something. The Star Wars logo, the classic Star Wars logo, and we'll run like a little graphic. The Star Wars logo always looked to me like Star Wars hair. It kind of flares around the side. And you can kind of take that Star Wars logo and stick it right over like Mark Hamill's head and it's like where the S and the R and the W and the S kind of flare out. His hair flares out there. And you can do the exact same thing with Harrison Ford.
When my hair grows long too, you get wings, they call them.
Yeah, wings.
It comes down like
the wings. The logo has those wings. So when I see the Star Wars logo, I'm seeing Star Wars hair at the same time. And that was the one thing when they made Battlestar Galactica, they must have been high-fiving each other because they're like, we nailed it. We got hair. We nailed the Star Wars. That's all you need. That's what makes this Star Wars movie so popular is the hair, and we got it. Dirk Benedict with his coif and Richard Hatch.
Yeah, you show Luke Skywalker in the logo over.
Yes, you dissolve. Yeah. It lines right up there. It's like a golden
ratio.
The golden ratio. Yeah.
Well, next time I get my haircut, I'm bringing the Star Wars logo to the barber.
Right.
And have them like...
Well, it's a stencil. You get the stencil where it's all the words are cut out, and then you just hold it up to your head.
In elementary school, I remember kids would get the Batman logo shaped into their head.
Yeah, I had the Batman logo in my head.
Yeah, you get it cut in it, and like I go to the barber, I'm like, can you cut the Star Wars logo?
Yeah.
He like cuts. I have my wings exploding.
So yeah, and another thing that's kind of like rehabilitation, because again, you're building on the shoulders of giants and things. So these Star Wars things, the Star Wars mythology is being like, it's being worked on by little elves, you know, and polished and refined. And so it has like George Lucas's dream, like it has sort of come to fruition, and it does, you know, it's like there's enough Star Wars material now that like there is a lot of really good, like there's a lot of really good stuff, and there isn't really, to me, the garbagey Star Wars stuff has gotten smaller and smaller because there's just so much
good stuff.
So much good stuff to come. And another one that got kind of rehabilitated, for me at least, was the big villain that they keep building up to this. They keep talking about him and the posters, is Grand Admiral Thrawn. And if you read any of the Star Wars, there's like these Star Wars novels, the Heir to the Empire series. Yeah. And that kind of filled the gap, because there was like no Star Wars for a bunch of years. And then I'm in the bookstore and I see Heir to the Empire. And I was like, thank God there's some. So I bought it immediately as a kid. And it's like, thank God there's some Star Wars. And it was so exciting. And then from there, we started getting like more Star Wars stuff, like Star Wars comics and things started coming back. Because it was that period where like, okay, nobody cares about Star Wars anymore. And then it was like gone. It was like, wait, where'd it go? Where'd you go? Come back, Star Wars.
When I was in elementary school, Heir to the Empire book, we checked it out of the library. Mm-hmm. And that was the first like non-movie, it was the first like out, it felt like Star Wars escaped its box.
Yeah, it escaped, and it continues the story, because then it's coming after Return of the Jedi, and it's like, okay, nice. And so like I read it, and then I got to a point in the story, it's pretty early on, where Luke Skywalker's drinking hot chocolate.
I remember
and I got so angry, because it's like, he's supposed to be drinking blue stuff. He's not supposed to be drinking anything I can relate to. Like, I understand when you're writing a novel, it's like you want to come up with ways to let the reader relate. But it's kind of like, can you maybe describe hot chocolate without calling it hot chocolate? Like,
Swiss Miss? He's like,
Luke tears open the Swiss Miss packet and dumps it. And it's like, and he says
he doesn't use milk. He uses
like he should be drinking some weird blue thing called Blurkazan or something. He shouldn't be drinking hot chocolate like that. Like you're fucking up right off the bat. And he talks about how he got the recipe for hot chocolate, that like Lando had been to some far distant world and brought back the recipe for hot chocolate and stuff. So it's like, okay, so Lando went to Earth. Like, are we there now? So we've gone from it being this sort of like, oh, does Star Wars take place in the future? Does it take place in the past? So, you know, what's going on? You know, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. And it's like, no, like you can go, you can get in a spaceship, and if you fly far enough, you can again, go to Giant Eagle and get a packet of hot chocolate.
Lando and Nia Num landed on the Alps. It shows the William he comes down. There's like a farmer and there's like cows everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like Heidi or something.
Heidi comes running out. Nia Num scares the shit out of the book.
So that took me right out of it. Like, and again, it was the thing, like those books are acclaimed, and like maybe they are great books or whatever, but I couldn't get past some of these, and the tone of it felt like, it was Timothy Zahn was the author, and it felt to me like, okay, Timothy Zahn could probably, you know, write the pants off of a Star Trek novel. But he hasn't figured out the difference between Star Trek and Star Wars. So it's like, yeah, Captain Kirk, he can drink hot chocolate.
Yeah.
And then so there was Grand Admiral Thrawn, who was like the new big bad. Like Darth Vader's gone, the Emperor's gone. Here's Grand Admiral Thrawn, and he's got blue skin and stuff. And I'm kind of like, yeah, this is feeling a little Star Trek. It's feeling a little Star Trek. You know,
drinking some Romulan ale.
Yeah. So there was that, and then Grand Admiral Thrawn had this like animal from another planet, and this animal has this natural ability to sort of blank out the Force. Like, so if you have enough of these little animals around in your little spaceship or whatever, the force won't work. They create like a force interference field or whatever. And I was like, that's not how the force works. Again, I was like so angry because it's like, this is the force that binds the universe. You're not going to find some animal that can create an immunity to, like, that's ridiculous. But this was before midi-chlorians. So this was like, this was like an inoculation against midi-chlorians.
Yeah,
it was like
laying the groundwork.
So that when midi-chlorians show up, like, you've already gotten all the anger out of your system at this animal that can negate the force.
You're right. That does sound very Star Trek.
Yeah, it's very Star. Yeah, it's like a Tribbles or something. Yeah. They got Tribbles, and then Strike 3 or Strike 4 is Grand Admiral Thrawn keeps talking about what a loser Darth Vader was. And how Darth Vader was so stupid and a bungler and a joke. And again, I get it. You're trying to, like, Darth Vader's done. He's out of the story. So you're trying, and this guy's the new villain. You're trying to build him up, puff him up and stuff. But, like, you're doing it at the expense of Darth Vader. Like, Darth Vader's so cool. And again,
he's like little Dick.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like,
it's like, no, we're not gonna trash everything that came before. Like I know Darth Vader. You're no Darth Vader. The Grand Admiral Thrawn didn't have like a cool, like, he was blue. He was a Star Trek character.
He's like, I'm gonna drop some secrets here. He's like, Darth Vader never wiped properly on the Death Star.
It was that kind of thing. So again, this is like the first Star Wars media, like, post Return to the Jedi. So it was kind of like, like, oh man, like, if you hit a bum note, it was like, that's like, and then it's like we had some years of bum notes from George Lucas himself. It's like, okay, when George Lucas starts making Star Wars movies again, he is gonna set you straight. Timothy Zahn. He is gonna.
You gotta clap back visually. You have to do a drawing of Grand Admiral Prawn, like a shrimp guy.
So, all these years later, I have that experience with those Grand Admiral Thrawn books, and now this comes out. And they turn Grand Admiral Thrawn into, like, this great character, and they build him up and they puff him up, and they give him, like, he's got this, like, because again, one of the things that made Admiral Thrawn feel so Star Trek was that there was no magic about him. He was very scientific and no nonsense and analytical. And so, and again, that makes sense too, because it's like, you don't want to just repeat Darth Vader or something. You want to kind of make somebody that's different and stuff. So he has he's like sort of passionless, but very, calculated and stuff. But in this, he's kind of like, he's the actor that's playing him is great. He's kind of scary, but he's also mystical, or at least maybe he's still the same old Thrawn who's very calculated, but he's built this like mystical cult around himself. And this, like, so that, Star Wars is made out of all these like bits and pieces from all these different things. And so some of the movies, some of the shows, they like emphasize some of the aspects. So sometimes they'll emphasize the sort of like samurai movie influences in a thing, or they'll emphasize, like the Kubrick or something. In this one, they're emphasizing Arthurian legend or like Welsh mythology, like, Black Cauldron kind of stuff. Rhiannon or whatever, like, they're emphasizing that aspect, that influence in Star Wars. And we haven't seen a lot of that in these sort of, newer Star Wars. Like, there was a little bit of that, like when Rey ends up on that island at the end of The Force Awakens and then hands Excalibur over to this kind of like Merlin sort of Luke Skywalker. Like that kind of hit a little bit of like an Arthurian note, but this goes all in on that. And I think the movie Excalibur was a big influence, because there's a stormtrooper who has like this kind of like gold face, like this gold sculptural face.
I don't think I've seen that
looking like Mordred's armor in the movie Excalibur, and so and they're on this, like, it's this planet on this island with this like tower that has like a Star Destroyer sitting on top of it and stuff. But it just feels very like Welsh mythology and having like a black cauldron that you throw dead bodies into and they reanimate and stuff. And there's like witches. There's like it's very cool.
We got to cover John Boorman's Excalibur.
Oh, it's one of my favorite movies of all time. Yeah, that'll be next week. We'll do that next
Hell
week.
yeah. Like, I watched it for the first time in school.
Okay.
And a teacher, I think we had like a film club or something.
Well, because there's like nudity in it and stuff, if I recall.
Yeah, like, somehow we like fast forwarded it or something.
Okay, yeah.
Like, I would have remembered, trust me.
Yeah.
I would have fucking remembered.
Yeah.
Like,
That is a great movie though. But yeah, I think they're because again, it's like okay, and or like the Western, like I feel like the Mandalorian like hit the Western, the Wild West kind of outlaw influence in Star Wars. So it's like okay, it's like what else is left, and it's like Arthurian, and it's like there's a lot of meat on that bone. They get a lot out of it with this.
Mary Elizabeth Winstead, there she is in like projection there.
Yeah,
dude, this like I think it looks good.
Yeah,
Doesn't this look cool?
Yeah, it does. It is. Like, and again, watching it on my projector, it was like, okay, yeah, this is like a Star Wars movie because every episode has like some cool like spaceship chase. The rhythm of it is really nice.
And I like the spaceship designs, like super cool. Dude, this is like my new favorite Star Wars thing. Yeah, I'm all in on this.
I'm on board and I want to keep the party going. So maybe I'll go back and revisit The Mandalorian season 3 and kind of get caught up, or revisit Andor and get caught up because I was kind of like not in the mood a little bit for a while, but like this kind of has me back in the mood. When I was watching Mandalorian season 3, I was kind of like, it's so rare that I'm kind of like in sync with something that is like of the current moment and stuff. So it's like, okay, they're rolling these episodes out of The Mandalorian season 3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to watch an episode when it comes out, and then I'm going to do like a parody comic of that and just keep that going. And that'll kind of, get me on a rhythm of watching them and get me on a rhythm of doing like kind of a regular comic. And I'd never done like a parody comic before. So it was called Boba Fart with 2 T's.
Yes.
And I was doing that. But again, I ran out of steam. I was like,
gotta get Grand Admiral Prawn in there.
Yeah, Grand Admiral Prawn. But I was like, I wasn't feeling it. Like it was like I was trying to get myself kind of motivated and Boba Fart 2 T's. Yeah. And he had like, Baby Yoda pops up out of, Grogu pops up.
That cracked my ass up.
But then he had like a baby
funny.
Spock and a baby Emperor, and he had all these like baby versions.
Dude,
he had like a little daycare going.
When he, dude, it was so fucking good. I would cry.
Yeah, it was fun while it lasted. It was fun while it lasted, but I just kind of like, I didn't. It's one of those things like when you set up like, oh, I came up with this system that I'm going to follow. I'm going to do this day and this that day. Like my psyche just like, I just kind of like push back against it. Like things have to happen organically and naturally. I can't like force it.
Like that, yeah, it cracked me up. He's going like this.
Death Proof. She's all done up with like again the Twi'lek, the sort of tentacles on her head and stuff, and all the Star Wars gear and goggles and whatnot. But then like you recognize her face and she just looks like a very like modern like of our times kind of. So it's kind of funny. Like it's like casting like there's a certain face you kind of like expect to see in one of those like Star Wars alien characters. And it's just kind of like, oh, here's, this modern woman wearing like all this Star Wars.
Yeah, like the Alien Nation get up.
Yeah. And it is like, this character is very likable. And I'm enjoying her like interplay with the other characters. Like she's really great. But it is kind of like, I'm kind of like, what's all this stuff,
And like, yeah, you're right. And then when Rosario Dawson was having the scene with the other actor with just the purple hair, I'm like, I thought I would be jealous. Right. Like you get to spend like 10 minutes in the makeup chair.
Yeah, they just spray on some purple and you're good to go.
And but
got this elaborate thing she has to wear.
But like the makeup, and they do a good job coating everything. Evenly coated, because when I tried to be the Hulk for Halloween when I was little,
right, you just got a little bit of.
I just painted my forearm and I ran out of gas.
Yeah, you need like a roller or something that you paint roller. So yeah, I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby: The Epic Life of the King of Comics. I Am Stan, a graphic biography of the legendary Stan Lee, and Jack Kirby's Star Warriors: The Adventures of Adam Star and the Solar Legion. And I'm also working on a new superhero comic called WITCHMAN, which is part of a Kickstarter campaign. The Kickstarter campaign has, in 1 week, been fully funded. You can just follow the link in the show notes below.
I'm Matt Zeoli.
And yeah, we'll see you next time in a galaxy far, far away. Like I just did an episode of New God Sunday School where I was talking about like a Jimmy Olsen comic.
Dude, and how the teaser, the roast of Jimmy Olsen. I'm like, I cannot fucking wait.
Because I have a lot to say about like Jimmy Olsen and stuff. And so like I kind of roast Jimmy Olsen, and it's like we kind of got a little bit of that in this episode too, because I got some things to say about Grand Admiral Thrawn. Right. I got things to say about the prequels and Clone Wars and stuff. So yeah, we're good.